Hello and welcome to this short video about factorising quadratics. Now at the moment we're going to have 1x squared term. We say that a equals 1 because if you remember, any quadratic can be written ax squared plus bx plus c. So what we're thinking about with these questions at the moment is that the a value is 1. We're having 1x squared. Now before we start factorising, it's important that we're able to multiply out double brackets so we can remember that structure. So if you remember, we can do first times first, so we get an x squared from there. Outer times outer, so I get minus 2x. Inner times inner, so I get a plus 5x. And then the last times last, so whatever's at the end of my two brackets. So I'm going to get minus 10, because 5 times minus 2 is minus 10. And I can simplify some of this. I can simplify these two bits here because they're both in terms of x. I can't combine those with the x squared because that's not in terms of x, that's in terms of x squared. So I can simplify that bit there. Look, x squared is still just 1x squared plus 3x minus 10. Now basically when we're factorising, we're going to be doing this backwards. We're going to be going from an expression like this back into brackets. Let's just make sure we can do this one again. I'm going to have x squared minus 3x minus 10x plus 30. So x squared minus 13x plus 30. So I want to factorise this. I want to put this back into brackets. So what I'm going to do first is draw out some brackets. So I remember that I'm going to put them in. I want to find some things that add together to give me the middle number, they're in green, and multiply to give me that end number. So I'm going to think about things that multiply to give me plus 3. So 1 and 3 and minus 1 and minus 3. And of those, think about which ones add to give me minus 4. That's minus 1 minus 3, because minus 1 minus 3 is minus 4. So this is going to be x minus 1, x minus 3. All we're doing is every time finding things that multiply to give the end and add to give the middle. So if we look at this one, we'll do the same again. I need things that multiply together to give me minus 10. So 1 times minus 10, minus 1 times 10. Do be careful of your signs here. 2 times minus 5, minus 2 times 5. Now I'm going to look to see which ones of those add together to give me minus 9. And 1 minus 10 is minus 9. So the answer to this is going to be x plus 1, x minus 10. And of course you can multiply back out to check. So I get x squared from there, minus 10x, plus x, minus 10. So that's going to give me my x squared minus 9x minus 10. This one here, x plus 1, x minus 10. So if we had to solve this one, we didn't have to because it just said factorise, but if we had to solve this one, x would be minus 1 and x would be 10. What we're looking for, if we had a graph, sometimes in an exam they'll give it to you looking a little bit different. This question is actually really, really easy because they've given me most of it. If you think about this, I've already got an x squared from there. I've already got a 3x. I need 3 times something to give me 12. And something times x is going to give me 4. So A is definitely going to be 4. Because 3 times 4 is 12. So if they give it to you looking slightly different, don't worry, you can still use the same skills. But it's that. A minute ago we had, it's the play, tends to be a bit easier. Now here, we're getting a slightly different question. Now it's asking me to solve x squared minus 12x plus 35. Now, in all honesty, there are a number of ways of solving these equations. But they're specifying it needs to be done by factorising. So we're going to have to do that same thing again. So 1 times 35 minus 1 times minus 35. 5 times 7 minus 5 times minus 7. I'm going to have a look to see which ones of those add up to give me minus 12, because I've got minus 12 in the middle, and minus 5 times minus 7 is minus 12. So this is going to give me x minus 5, x minus 7. Now, when it says solve, what we mean is it has to equal 0. So I'm going to make this equal 0. And the really good news is, because it's equaling 0, we've got a little trick that we can use. From there, I know that x equals plus 5, x equals 5, and there I know x equals 7. The reason for that, this first bracket, when x is 5, is going to become worth 0, because 5 minus 5 is 0. And of course, 0 times anything is 0. So what we're doing, and of course the same thing will be happening for the second bracket, we're changing the sign of the number inside the bracket. And this is why factorising is really useful for us, because it allows us to solve these quadratic equations. So if we go back to where it crossed the x-axis. So one more example, we're going to solve x squared plus 2x minus 15 by factorising. So again, I'm going to find things that multiply to give me 15, so minus 15, so 1 times minus 15, and minus 1 times 15, 3 times minus 5, and minus 3 times 5. Then have a look which one of those is going to give me this plus 2. Well, minus 3 plus 5 is plus 2. So this is x minus 3, x plus 5. And because we're solving, we're going to make it equal 0. And as we did before, we'll change the signs. So that's going to give me x equals 3, and that's going to give me x equals minus 5. This one looks perhaps a little bit more difficult, but it's a nice trick. This one is called a difference of two squares question. And the reason it's a difference of two squares is because that's a square and 64 is a square. It's a difference because I've got a minus and there are no x's. So essentially what I need to be doing is finding something that multiplies to give me minus 64 and adds to give me 0 because there's no x's. Now, of course, 8 times minus 8 is minus 64, and 8 minus 8 is 0. So this is going to factorise to x plus 8, x minus 8. And of course, if we needed to solve this, which we do here, that's just going to give me x equals minus 8, and x equals 8. So if you've got two terms and there's no x's, it's always going to be, inside the brackets, it's always going to be x plus the square root of whatever you've been given, and x minus the square root of whatever you've been given. And this was a nice square number, so it's easy, but of course it wouldn't have to be. We could do something like solve x squared minus 70. So the answers to that would be x plus root 70 and x minus root 70. And then as we need to solve, of course, that will give me x equals minus root 70 and x equals root 70. I hope that helps. Thanks very much.